So this is Baruch Fleischman here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and we are learning here the fundamental, the most basic work of the Holy ARI, in the sense that it is the most complete. It doesn't mean that it has all the depth that other parts of the Chaim has, but this is a part of the Chaim. These are the Kitzvei ARI, and this is called OTZROT. So we've been through this before. We're in this little blurb right here where it says Hiluk yesh bein Hakodim and Hakodim v'inyan anal. So there's a difference between Hakodim and Hakodim, as we mentioned before, that has to do to the fact that there's some kind of aspect of death in both of them. Tam lama choya inyan zecha b'Hakodim. So why does this death have anything to do with Hakodim at all? V'gam ba'ak. Also in Ak himself, there's this bechina. So let's go down to number Lamed Aleph. Let's do our work here and see what we can understand. These are the black print is the words of the Holy ARI. Amna ma'hefesh b'neihem, the difference between them is ki kan b'Hakodim hoy mekalkel almanas l'sakin. So you destroyed it in order to be able to rebuild it. V'seisach almanas l'b'nois, so tear down something in order to make something new. He said the commotion is boyer, as will be explained or has been explained. So this is the main idea, is that we want to bring the spheros, that is the ore of the spheros, back to the Pada'ak. So when they leave and when they come back again, they make the aspect of Kalim. So he says, but that's different. Hoya, Bittel, Umisa, Gemura, Mamish, was completely total death. Hafesh bein bechidas hashvira the Olam Hakuda and Shalomala bechativa the Ak. The bein hashvira shehoise be'olam and Hakudim, between the breaking that takes place in a different world, which is the world called Hanakudim, Shalamata bechativa, which is below the Tibur. Husha be'olam Hakudim lo hoise bekelim shvira v'misa gebura, because in the Hakudim there wasn't a complete death. V'lo choyetzorot l'sachtem, so therefore you didn't have to bring them back and really to build them. Iver rebeleida rebemachadash, you had to bring them back into a gestation stage, and we haven't really talked about gestation. That's for a later part, but he's mentioning it now. V'leida, and then rebirth, machadash, and make them be born again, and that's what's going to happen in the Hakodim. Kevin shehashvira choysa b'sivis istalkus or minakli. So the reason why there was a shvira was because the light left the kli. The kevin shehazach or lohoyer bekela, but then the light comes back. Kavatachila, as it was originally. He says nistaken, then it becomes rebuilt. So that's the concept of corrupting something or destroying something in order to be able to rebuild it. That's what the words of the Rav. Shein is soiser as kol habinyan, doesn't tear the whole building down. El ra kashir hanitzrach lo, only the mart that's needed. L'umaz zos ba'olam and Hakudim choises stiver shavira mamish, there that actually does take place. The nishbar al kalim the gami, the kalim completely broken, not usable. Voven shetikuna min rock. The only way that you can rebuild them and make them back into functioning spheres again, or chadash, by the birth of a new kind of light, which is called by this name, and we're not near where we're going to see this. This is in Olam Habarudim, which is the shame Maha Chodesh. It's called by this Maha Chodesh, and we've talked about Ma before. And when it's rebuilt, it's going to be reborn by this Ma, and together with the help of this Maha Chodesh, it's going to become a completely different image. An episode Kavim commotion is boyer, and instead of being in lines as we understand that there's starting with Kesser, and then you go down to Malchus, it's going to be different. It's going to be in 3 lines. And we'll see that later on. The command b'charucha b'shachar barudim. So we're going to see that in Shar Barudim. It says Amnam, lefi shemin Hakudim, his chilo hakelim, his galus kasat. So since in the Hakudim there is a little bit of a revelation of the Kalim. V'chein gam heim gam bahem choya getzas bitl. So therefore there is the same concept going over here too. Really, where the real break takes place, in the 10 kalim that are going to be produced in the Olam and Nakudim. But here in Hakodim, yesh rak kli echad belvad. Remember, there's only one kli. The kli has like 10 lights within it. So there's even so that just like the kalim broke of the Nakudim, so also broke the root of the kalim. So since we see that in the Nakudim you have an aspect of kalim hagam sheim ne'olamim, even though you can't really see the kalim, there's only one big kalim, but there's a concept developing here that within it there is the progenitor of kalim, of the 10 kalim, but so kli echad bilvav, only in one kli. V'hem gam adayim enum kli mamash, but they're still not a complete kli. Ela rak behelim belvad, they're only there in a hidden way. So if we say that about Hakodim, gam ki behelim v'lo begilui. So that in the Nakudim there was no shvira and misa, not really, not like in the Nakudim. Ki ein kam mamish bechinas kalim, and why? Because there's really no kalim here. Ela rak kalim zachim b'ne'olamim belvad, only kalim. Trying to see why did my screen go black? It has to do with this, that, I don't know. I'm going to have to take a second to try to figure out what's going on here. In the afternoon sun. Let me finish this. We could still read it. He said, "Ki ein kam mamash b'chidus kalim el rak kalim zachim b'ne'olamim ma'od. Gam lo naflo la'olam shalamata me'Hakodim." Also, it didn't fall out of the sphere of the Hakodim, which go down to the Tibor of Ak. That we're going to see that takes place in the Olam and Hakodim. That shvira, the misa, was only in a complete case of being hiddenness. A kaguf shenistalka b'mena nishma, so like a body where the neshama left it and now is dead. Now, let me see, why did I get all of a sudden this tremendous shadow? I don't know. I'm going to put this down more. I think that might have helped. It helped a lot. Okay, so let's get back to number Lamed Gimel, where we were. So it says like this. V'hamaskil yavin ki gam ba'adam kadmon hanizka da'el. So how are we going back to Adam Kadmon? There's also something about this in Adam Kadmon. Kol osam hatzim sumim. So all of the different contractions should be arna lamala that we explained up above. Gam osam shenivoyer l'kumon. As we're going to see more about this in Shar Hanakudim Beperik Beis. Bezos Hashem. Be'inyan says Hanakudim imenu, in the inyan of the Kudim leaving it. Ve'samsem atzmo upares chad parsa b'tivr delay. Now also there's going to be a new idea. So we're going to see the inyan of when the Netzudim, the revelation in the Kudim, we're going to see how that works. Ve'samsem atzmo, and how it is that the Ak was able to contract himself, upares chad parsa, and he spread out it's really like a diaphragm, but it means a screen, bitibura delay, at the place of his belly button. Kozehu karov el bitl malachim. This is also very similar to the concept of the bitl malachim. V'devarim elum asa laharchiv bechem. So these ideas right now, it's forbidden to really go into it too much. So it says, so don't talk about it too much. Also, once again, but a person who's understandable, that is a good mind, is going to understand this. So he said, ben Yavin ben Yavin Shagam Ba'ak Atzmo. So, in understanding that also this is taking place at Ak, Shabo HaKelim Nechalome Beyosa, because in there the Kelim are hidden, really more hidden. V'hi Esher Klal L'daber Be'inyan the Kelim and Nimsoim Ba'ak, so it's impossible to really talk about these Kelim that are found inside of Ak. Hozegam came Shvira Behelim Mamish, that also is a breaking, a hidden kind of breaking that's taking place there. Mamish Kasher Nistalaka Or Mitzocho, because what happens in Ak, in the preparation, or what would be the right word? It's sort of like that, antecedent to the appearance of the Nikudim coming out of the eyes of Ak. There's this parsa which blocks the light, and once again you have another situation where the light is being diminished or not allowed to go to its kli. So he's a kasher nistalka la'or metocha kanizka le'er b'sof shara gudim. V'chein sarak lomer gan the command b'shara nikudim. So then when we get over nikudim, we're going to see this. Shenizbar v'sham inyan sila ka'or metocha ach. Over there we're going to explain the concept of the light leaving for the inside of Ak. And what is it? What does he say? He says the Nai the Ak, which is the legs and the Yisod of Ak. All Lamalam and a Tibor, they left the area of their normal area, that is the Oros there, left their Kalim behind. Uparis Chad Parsa, and then a separation barrier, a membrane, is spread over the diaphragm. Kadesha ha'oros lo yardo, so the lights shall not go back down into there, building a pressure cooker, so to speak, in the upper part. So we're saying that the lights of the lower part are going to go into the upper part, and as a result of that, they're going to cause a lack of light down below. So what's the general idea in all of this? In any case where you see the light leaving from the midst of the kli, who nikra b'shem shavira, that's the concept of shavira. So this is the same thing in people as well. And as much and the more hidden the kli is, kain hashvira ki yosef behelim, so its breaking or whatever is broken about it is going to be more hidden as well. Raksha harav kadarko, but the way the Rav is, he doesn't really get into much about all the detail that's inside of Ak, because inside of Ak is the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. So therefore he doesn't go out and talk about it too much. He also the harchiv hamaskel yavin, and a person who's got a brain and looking for God will understand this. So number Lamadal is a Badaki b'malchus shal Olam Hakodim. And when we talk about the malchus of Olam Hakodim, the Shara ba asara shorshim, there are still within the Olam Hakodim, there are 10. He says nishara remain in it 10 roots. Shall asara hanakudim shenivar be'ezus Hashem, which we're going to explain. So the roots of the outer world, which is in this case the world of Nakudim, has roots in the inner world, which is the world of Hakodim. In this same way, it goes through all of Atzilus. Because the malchus of the roots, which is where in the mouth of Adam Kadmon, it has 10 different parts to it. Those 10 parts are going to be generated later on into Hakudim. V'hem asara shrashim al eser Hakudim. These are the roots of the Hakudim, and those 10 roots, I think he wants to say, we'll see, that they're also the roots of the Hakudim. Became the malchus shechal the Hakudim. So therefore, when we come to the malchus of Hakudim, which is the very lowest place, yesh asara shrashim, those shorshim, there are 10 roots there too. El Eses Spheres the Nikudim, which is for the Eses Spheres the Nikudim. So what he's saying is that the rule is that the roots of the lower are contained in the lowest part of the upper. That's the Malchus of Hakudim, has the roots of all of the Olam and Nikudim. V'chein b'malchus the Nekudim yesh eses spheros v'hem shroshim al eses spheros devarudim. We'll see that later on. V'chein al zerig zecha b'shach olamos, and the same thing goes every olam. V'tzarech l'seis l'das. So excuse me. V'tzarech ata l'das. Shach malchus the Hakodim. He shorish shall call Olam Hanakudim. The malchus of Hakodim, again, is the root of all Hanakudim. V'chein hu b'kol b'chin is malchus. Every time you have a malchus, shall call Olam v'Olam and any Olam. The hadish of Olam ha'elyon b'yoser hu peh da'ak. So you get to the most panimi Olam that we can understand is what is contained in the peh of Adam Kadmon. Yesh b'malchus the peh da'ak asara shroshim shemehem nasa eses spheres Hakodim, and those roots bring us the 10 spheres in the Hakodim. V'chein b'malchus the Hakodim also, get down to the malchus of the Hakodim, where all the light flows there. Yesh asara shroshim shemehem nasa eses spheres the Hakodim. V'chein b'malchus the Hakodim yesh asara shroshim shemehem nasa eses spheres the Varudim. He called Olam yesh bo shorshim la'olam shalamata chabenet, because all Olam, it has roots for the lower world that is below it. V'lechein, so therefore, b'shar Hanakudim, in the Shar Hanakudim, b'varach ha'rachav ha'heich na'asa kol ha'kelim in Hanakudim, how it is that we're going to make all of these 10 kelim of the Hanakudim, al yedei histalkus ha'oros ha'anayim ba'oros da'achab. So he says, I'll explain this again. He said, because I said it wrong. Al yedei histaklos, by the looking. Now, this is a whole new concept that we have to talk about. Oros enayim, the light that comes out of the eyes is able to look ba'oros of the lights of the Hakodim, which are the lights of the ozen, chotem, peh, called achab. So now that we've explained how it works, the kelim Hakodim, so we see that the lights now are clothed and enter in to the kelim. And the idea is like this: the 10 lights which are rooted in the malchus Hakodim, Niknasul his lavish bekesed in the Hakodim, they go in, and this is an important idea too for later on, but we'll see it again. His lavish bekesed the Hakodim. So the bottom, the light at the very bottom of Olam Hakodim, actually finds those lights inside of the rosh of Olam Hanakudim, which is the Keser. The Nakuda is a Keser, Neshach Bekeser, and the Nakuda of Keser, which I said before, remains in the Kudas Keser, remain in Keser, Chachma, and also in Chachma. B'kol ha'oros shenes shetachtecha niknesecha b'kli ha'chachma, they all go into Chachma. I'm going to read it again. As we said, we're going to talk about this in great detail. Let's go over here. He says like this: Ba'achar shemevarach his havos hakelim the Hakodim. So we're going to explain that. So there we have the idea that the lights are going to come into Kelim. They go into the very top sphere of Hakodim. The Nakudas a Keser Nishar Bekeser, so now the Nakudim of the Keser remain there. And then Achachma, and all of the lights that come after it, they all go into Chachma. So we understand that the lights are all moving together. They're moving into the different Kelim. And that's the shear on of the Holy ARI. And next time we're going to get to this explanation where he has over here, he's going to have some introduction to Shar Hanakudim in more detail.